Time for STS. Pull up STS. So, Survey Tools is our software that analysts use for to get reports, for the working agreements that we have the client sign for all our input and output. So it's very important to us. All right, so what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, so I asked you to, or you in the check-in process and everything, you downloaded STS, the app, to your desktop. Okay, so now we're going to go through the process of logging in, and you're going to have to get some files downloaded and that sort of thing at that time. So we'll go through that. Anytime STS says a message, do you want to accept a new update? Always accept the update, because if you don't, your system can become unstable. So accept all updates. Your program might not open if you don't. Okay, so you do want to accept updates. So you want to install it. Then you want to, I'm going to give you the password. Okay, so your username is going to be student, and your password is 1234. So you want to download your STS now. Student 1234. Download your STS now, and it's going to download files. Okay, which is fine. It's going to access files, going to download files. It's going to take time. Just let me know when you actually, I'll show you what you're going to get. And just leave the icon on your desktop. You don't want to have to download every time. Just create a shortcut on your desktop so that you can't get into STS until I give you the login. But you should have it on your desktop. Okay, it should be downloading some files. Is this different from the training? This is STS, our survey tools. So it's different than anything you've done so far. Well, just accept it and move on, Darnell. It's because it's privately created. That's why. So you might have to bypass your security software or whatever. Well, Ricardo, you've got to do that now. I sent you the link. You have to do it, because otherwise you're going to get too far behind. You're not going to be able to follow. I was pretty clear about that last night. You're in using student. Okay, good. Files are downloading good. Well, use the link again. You've got to, you guys, you have to follow along with me, and you have to be doing this as we go. I cannot teach it twice, and you're not going to be able to do it on your own. I've tried that, so I'm telling you from experience with working with people. People say, no, just go without me, but then they can't catch up, and I cannot help you separately. There's no time in our week to do this twice, just so you know, which is why we do it now. So, okay, downloading now, good. Okay, everybody's making progress. Good, good, good. I'm not rushing the file download, but I am telling you, you have to follow along with me. Okay, so please, and I'm not marking everybody's name as we go. You're adults. But this is what's going to happen. If you don't do this as we go, you're going to be lost and it's going to be hopeless and you're going to get mad at me. Don't get, you have not gotten your information. You got your information from Carrie. You were supposed to do it during the check-in and I sent it last night. Again, even though you already had it. And you were already supposed to download STS on your desktop. So you did get the information. I sent it. If you got the homework, you got the information. So, okay, we're getting there. Yeah, the sign in is student 1234. Student 1234. This is why I have to say names. I don't say your name to make you feel bad. I say your name because everybody else thinks I'm talking to them. So Deborah, you got the information last night. Not Rocco. Or whatever. I didn't send the password. I have to say names. Okay, nobody can see who you are anyway. But I have to say your name so you know I'm talking to you. So Carrie sent the information. It was part of the check-in that you did last Friday before class even began. And I resent it last night. And I said you have to make sure that you have the link on your laptop because we need to be ready to go. Okay? So you appreciate the direct talk. Well, there's no point in talking around in circles. So, because you have to follow along with this. Otherwise you're going to get behind. And when you get behind in the class, it's really hard to catch up. And you have to learn this stuff to be able to go in the field. So nobody said it would be easy, right? Nobody said so. So the ID is student and the username is student, the password is 1234. Yeah, info is going to download. You should have had the program already and information is downloading. Correct. So while we're waiting for information to download, because everybody should have clicked on their icon and it should be doing, and you input your password or the username and password that I gave you, and you should get this screen, okay, without an assignment history. So downloading now, it'll take a minute for some to download, that's fine. So as an FYI, STS can be used offline. You need to be online to install the program, to download your job when you get it from your admin, your new assignments, because it pulls from the database. To sync your financials, we have a function that allows you to sync your financials so your SSD can see your data, so we can help you with the integrity of the data and also to choose reports. And also, you need to be online to populate some reports because it accesses the data from the database. So that's when you need to be online. You could actually work offline and print some reports offline. You get your own username and password Thursday. So always accept updates. Okay, so a lot of you are ready to go. Let me know when you're, if you're not ready to go, if you haven't. You were supposed to download it. Carrie, you're getting very far behind. You were supposed to download it last Friday during the check-in. And for anybody that failed to do that, I sent out the link again last night, and it should have been downloaded. Okay, I can only wait so long though. So. Well, then you should have the link, Carrie, and you should just be clicking on it. And the username is student. The password is 1234. Okay, so we'll give it a sec while David's is downloading. I did ask for you to be ready to go today. So if you're not ready to go, I can only wait for so long because I can't hold up the whole class. So I don't know. This is a very fast-paced environment. You know, it's fast-paced when you're in the field. It's fast-paced. You got to kind of be ready to roll. So, okay, so yours is done. Okay, so I'm going to move on because I think everybody's pretty much ready to go. So the first thing we want to do, so you should see this screen, but you're not going to see an assignment history. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to download MS Charts. That will give you the ability to create charts and graphs with your data. So how we do that is we click on the help icon on the top left, help button, and scroll down to install MS Charts. Okay, and then you want to run MS Charts. It will be very fast, and that will give you the ability to produce charts and graphs. Okay, so go to the help button, install MS Charts, and run MS Charts. And then you may get a message, you may not. If we get to Thursday and you can't produce a chart, then we'll know that it wasn't downloaded properly, but it should be. Okay, so we're going to download MS Charts, which will allow us to produce charts and graphs. Go to the top left, help, scroll down to install MS Charts, click run, and that will install MS Charts. It's really quick. Yeah, it's done. A lot of people are done already. Good, good, good. If it opened a new browser window, you probably were not fully installed Subi or whatever. I don't think it could. Anyway. Okay, it looks like it's getting done. Okay, we'll give it another minute to make sure everybody's done. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change our display as name. Okay, so this is in the analyst information up here on the left. You cannot change first name, last name. That is picked up from the system. But what you can change is your display as. If you don't put your name in, then your reports will show student, which isn't good. Okay, so put your name in the display as name, and that will show your name will appear on reports. Okay, so you want to do that now. So we've done two things since we got into STS. We downloaded MS Charts, went to the help button, install MS Charts. We ran it, and that'll give us the ability to create charts and graphs. And that's very quick. And now we're changing our display as name to our name, so it doesn't show a student on our reports. So that's your next step, is to put your name in the display as name. No, you can change it. You can't change first name or last name. You can change display as. So you should be putting your name in display as. No, you only install MS Charts once, for the most part. And honestly, I don't even know why that has to be done. I don't know why it's not automatic, but anyway. We're actually in the process of rewriting our software because of the platform it uses and everything like that. But it's in the future, so you don't have to worry about it. But knowing STS will be important for the next iteration anyway, so. The display as is on the top left here. So you have first name, last name. You can't change those. Display as is the third one, and you put your name. Your title is hard-coded, and your entity is GR. Okay, is everybody ready to move along? Should be. Okay. Okay, so right now we have two tabs because we're not in, we haven't accessed the client. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working with Mannheim manufacturers. So there's two ways to access, download a job in STS. When you're in the field, so starting next week, your jobs will automatically be loaded to your STS, and then you just have to double click on the job that you're going to. Right now, we share a test client, Mannheim Manufacturers, so it's not loaded to you because it's not specific to you. So we're going to do it manually. Okay, so if I do it automatically, all I have to do is double click, and it pulls up my assignment. Okay, but let me close my assignment. But you don't have that in your history. I'll just show you something with the history. It's a little trick, or it's a little thing that I'm going to show you a lot of stuff, and some of it you'll remember because you'll use it all the time, and other stuff you won't. But I'll show it to you. Maybe a bell will go off if you run into this, if this happens. So if once you get a whole lot of jobs, you can actually hide the older jobs, so you can narrow your search. So I just right click and it says hide older assignments, and they just disappear. Then I right click again and I bring them back. the system will automatically at times hide old assignments. So if you don't see your assignment in there, but it was there before, you can always right click and it should pull up your old assignments. Okay, just it archives just for that reason. Okay, so I can double click or I can manually pull a job down. So the way you need to do this you need to remember because you're going to do this again Thursday with Jeffrey's pipe, is you go to the middle lower right hand part of the screen and click on PN, okay, which is PN is project number, job number, as we talked about yesterday. And you're going to type in the job number 89353. Okay. Now I can't do it because I already have it. But you type in 89353 and you press OK. And that will access Mannheim Manufacturers. So to repeat, you go to the middle lower right hand part of your screen and click on PN, which is project number, and type in 89353. So I'm going to put that number here. And that will pull up Mannheim. And now you will have 4 tabs. Okay, it will be found. Try it again. 89353. Eight, 9, 3, 5, 3. So type in 89353. Okay, some of us are getting there. Okay, Ignacio, close out and go back into SCS. Try again. Because it should be found. There's something weird about what's happening because it is there. So just try closing out and then log in again. What is your problem, Rocco? You had to do that, Subi? You had to close out and go back in? Sometimes files don't get loaded down in entirety and you may not be able to have access. So just log out and log back in. I will tell you that if you have trouble with something, then a lot of times all you have to do is log out and log back in. So. Something else must be preventing that, Rocco, because I mean, I don't know. Close out and go back in. Log out and log in again or something. Because that's not a thing. Oh, you're good now? You're in? Okay, good. Okay, so let me know, is everybody in 89353? You got into Mannheim and you have 4 tabs now. Okay, good. If you're not in, let me know. Okay, your files didn't get downloaded in Total Ignacio. That happens sometimes. Okay, so let me know. It's okay, we're gonna take our time, we're gonna work together. Okay, Fred, close out and log back in. Close out and log back in. So if you're having problems with 89353, if it says PN not found, just close out and log back in, and you sometimes if we go too fast and we don't let the files download, we will have an issue. So it's working. It worked, Ignacio? Okay, good. So we just have a couple that probably aren't quite there. And we'll give it another minute. How was the process prior to SCS? We use different software. So I actually, though, when I was an analyst, when I started as an analyst, there was no software. Everything was manual. So STS is good. We used a fax program, which was Lotus based. Then with the retirement of Lotus, it became Excel based, but it's it's very hard to change. There's still a few analysts that are on fax, but it makes nice reports, but it's very hard to change. Well, I don't know what you mean by having trouble with the file, because right now you're not going to have a file, Rocco. There's no file to bring up. If you have 4 screens, then you must have access to 89353. Okay, is anybody still trying to access and get to 4 tabs? You will see more, but not yet. Okay, so there's 4 tabs: home screen, notice of sale. The notice of sale is specific to the client. Client data is where we input the client data, and documents and reports. No, Carrie Ann, you're supposed to be doing all of this. I mean, you weren't ready to go this morning, so you're supposed. Everybody is navigating their STS. you said you didn't have the link yet, and the link was sent to you multiple times, and I can only hold hands for so long. So unfortunately, I guess the best you can do is just watch right now. If you can't, if you're not where you need to be, it seems like you're just so far behind already. It's going to be a problem. No, the link was sent to you by Carrie. You were supposed to download the link in the check-in last Friday, and I sent it again last night. So you've received the link multiple times. So you did receive the link. You received a link. So that's why everybody else. So just as an FYI, when I send an email to you guys, I use the attendance list. So I cover everybody. I don't type it separately. So it's not like you didn't get your email because I missed it. I mean, I use the attendance list for it. So if everybody else got it, then you got it. If you got the homework, you got it. If you got information from Carrie, you got it. It was part of the check-in. Part of the check-in was to download the STS link. And I asked specifically yesterday that you be ready to go this morning because of this, because I can't hold up a whole class for, whatever. Well, attachments contain downloads. They contain those. Did you open the attachments? Attachments contain a link. You can type in the link. Okay, anyway, I'm going to move on. Okay, so all right, so let's see. We're going to go to the notice of sale. Okay, so you should have changed your display as name to your name. Okay, that way it won't show student on your report. Now we're going to go to the notice of sale. Okay, so the notice of sale is the job information. It's similar to what you're going to get from your admin. So yesterday I showed you a lot of things, but one of the things I showed you was a handwritten notice of sale. That gets sent out with that's your assignment information. This contains similar information. It should be similar. Sometimes there's a difference. You can always ask about the difference, but it should be similar. So you have the job number 89353, the run date, which is when you're going to run the survey at 8 a.m., the source code, which is the database, the entity that sold it, GPS. GPS doesn't sell anymore, but it's a closed entity, but whatever. Fee is the survey fee. Reported volume is the reported sales volume last year. The NAICS code, that's a typo. It should be NAICS, is the securities classification. It's the industry classification code. So we don't use the NAICS code in STS, but we do use it to access industry averages. So the NAICS code is, and we use a 5-digit code, not the 4-digit. So don't worry about that. Comments, interests. So this is just some basic information. Okay, which we use our handwritten notice of sale as our primary source of information for the job. Okay, brochure and invoice rates, we control those at the report level, so you don't have to worry about those. Company information. Okay, so this is the information about the company. Our volume is reported volume, as reported by the client. Our volume is reported volume. Okay, so this is the company information. Manheim Manufacturers, the address, phone numbers. And then the client information is specific to the owner. So client is Alexander Manheim, owner. Okay, so this company information, if you research your client, if you see a different address than the one on your paperwork, doesn't mean that your paperwork is wrong. No, it does not. So you don't want to go and change stuff because sometimes the client information is wrong. We do confirm the name, the address, etc. when we do the confirmation. The sales CNIX confirms all of that. Are there ever mistakes? Yes, but they're few and far between. But let's say you do research and you see on their website, you see in a bunch of different things that Mannheim has 2 N's, not 1. Okay, you can change that if need be. And all you have to do is I would just oops. Okay, so I can change that here. It does not change our company database, but it does make it correct on your reports because this will show on your reports. So if for some reason something was picked up wrong in the database, spelled wrong, it can be corrected here. But make sure that if you change it, that you're changing it and it really is wrong, if you know what I mean, where you see it multiple places. Just because an address is different doesn't mean the address is wrong. Sometimes we meet at a client's home instead of the office because there's no privacy in the office. Sometimes we'll meet at a different location, whatever. So you can't assume that if the address is different that it's wrong. Okay, so I can change that to correct it. If I noticed that the address was different, I could ask my admin assistant to make sure that the address that I'm going to is the correct address. Okay, we can always check that here, but you shouldn't assume that it's wrong. Okay, the other thing we can change is the name. Like if this name, if we find out that this is misspelled, then again, we can do the same thing and we can change the name. Okay, but do it knowing that you're making the right correction. It's not a bad idea to check this information just because some people are sticklers about how their company and name are spelled. Okay, so that's changeable and it changes it on your reports. The client information, the client themselves, the owner, that changes a couple of things. It changes the confidentiality cover letter. That's about it. Okay, this changes the name on all the reports. Okay. Now, there's a feature here that I'm going to show you. You don't need to do it because you won't remember what I said to do probably if you encounter a client with multiple companies. So some clients have more than one operating company, and we're there to analyze their whole business. So we have 2 companies and they don't have a consolidated financial. Okay, so if we get 2 sets of financials, then we actually can create a whole nother set of data. We can add a second company. Okay, so I'll show you what you do. You don't have to do it, but let me show it to you. If you run into this situation, know that you can add a second company, but you'll probably have to have guidance again on how to do it. Okay, so we click on the plus add, and that brings up the new company wizard. And I can add a second company. Oops. There is no spell check on STS, so you do have to spell, you want to spell properly. Okay, so I put in the name and address. I put next, and I put Mr. Mannheim, president. I click next, finish, and now it's spinning, spinning, spinning. Now it's working away, and I'll show you what it does. Okay, so now I have company number 2. When I go to my data, I have Manheim Manufacturers is 1, Manheim number 2 is 2. So it actually creates a whole second set of financials that I can input. So that's how we add a second company. And then this is for Manheim, the regular Manheim. Okay, so it's a feature. You'll probably you'll need it at some point, and you'll just have to ask your SSD, how do I do this? Or you can look in your STS PowerPoint. The STS PowerPoint, by the way, is in the portal. You should load it to your desktop. It's in the portal. It's just survey tools. Okay. So it is very good if you have to look something up. Okay. So I can do the same thing with adding a second client. If there's a second client, but there's going to be very few instances why you would do that. So, in fact, I don't think I would ever do that, to be honest. But you could, in fact, add a second client. So I'm going to delete the second company because I don't need it. But it is a feature that you will need. Now, if the client has 2 companies, one is an operating company and one is for the real estate, like an LLC for the real estate, we don't do financials for the real estate. We only do financials if it's another operating company. So one might be sales, one might be service, something like that. Okay? Okay. All right. Then we're going to get to our data. And I'll show you some things about this. Okay. All right. So first of all, I'm going to show you a function. I'm going to get rid of everything that's here. Okay. Let's say I input some stuff and I said, you know what, it's all wrong. I used put the wrong year in 2019. Okay. I can throw this in the trash. I click on 2019 and I bring it over to the trash can. And it will clear my year. Bye-bye. Okay. I can't get it back, but I can clear it. Okay, so this is the income statement. We have the income statement, we have the balance sheet, we have monthly data, which we're not going to learn this week because you're not going to use it next week. You can learn it in the future. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get comfortable with STS, with what I'm teaching you this week. And then you'll start to get comfortable with the output and everything. Then you can start to find your way around STS and see what other features are available, like monthly data. Okay? You're not going to use this next week. You probably won't use it for a while. So that's why it's just, I'm teaching you enough to get you started, and then you can add as you go. As an analyst, you constantly add to your toolbox. You don't learn everything that there is to know about being an analyst in a week of training, that's for sure. It's years of accumulated information, which is, to me, that's an appealing aspect of the job, because you're always learning new things. Okay, so monthly we don't do. The financial update is just a report that we do that can either be done online or manually, and then go ahead information and questionnaire response entry we'll get to later. Okay, so the income statement, we work based on 4 years of data, because 4 years gives us a good solid history. So we ask for 4 years the last 4 years, profit and loss and balance sheet, plus anything year to date. All right, so the first thing we have on the top left of this is the tab button. Okay, so what this tab button does is it tells you which way the tab's going to go when you place enter. So for example, 33, enter, 33, enter, it goes down. Now, if I change the direction to across, then it goes across. Okay, so about the only time I think you would use it with a cross is if you had multiple years, and you could do 2 at a time or 3 or 4 at a time. Sometimes you'll have this year and last year, the previous year, so you could do 2 at a time. So you would probably use this. Okay, so that just changes the tab. The other thing we have is a calendar. So the calendar is used, it says right on there, most recent month and year of your financials. Okay, so you have to tell the system what the most recent month and year is. Why? Because it won't know if you're inputting a partial year, but it needs to know that for the purposes of producing your data. So therefore, you need to tell the system, this is my most recent month and year of the financials that I have. So with our Manheim, the Manheim that you printed, there's 4 years of income statement, 4 years of balance sheet. Okay, so the most recent month and year of our income statement is December 31st, 2019. So we always use completed month ends. You don't want to use a portion of a month. You cannot, it makes no sense to do that. You'll have crap. It'll be crap, okay? So you always use a completed month end or a completed year end. So ours is completed December 2019. So I just put that in and I press OK. And then the whole database gets updated. And so you do want to do this because yours, I think, says 2013. It assumes that the previous years are previous years. Okay, so you want to type in December 31st, 2019, and that will update your years. It also updates the balance sheet at the same time. Okay, does everybody see that? See what to do on that? So we're changing the calendar to reflect our most current, most recent month and year of our financials. And our most recent month and year is December 2019. So that will change your dates accordingly. Now, sometimes we're going to get partial years. Okay, so when you show a chart of sales, if you use only a partial year, not a full year, then your partial year, let's say it's 6 months of sales and it's 500,000. It's going to look like you had a huge decrease in sales if you don't tell the system that this is 6 months of data, right? So we have to tell the system when we have a partial year, and then the system, we can annualize our data so our charts make sense. Because we want to look at when we annualize data, we assume that the remainder of the year more or less mirrors what happened in the data that we have, okay? So we only annualize when we have 6 months or more of data, really. Because if you only have a few months of data, then you're forced to assume when you input that data that the balance of the year will be the same. And a lot of companies have some seasonality or whatever. So that would be a bad assumption. So if we had 3 months of data, we would not use the current year. We might input the current year as a separate client, kind of like I just showed you, but we wouldn't use it with our other year ends because it's too much to assume. When you annualize, you are making an assumption, and you want to make sure it is a logical and valid assumption, because you're assuming that whatever data you're annualizing will more or less be repeated the second half of the year. Okay? Hopefully everybody understands what I'm saying. When we annualize, we take the data that we have, the number of months, we divide by the number of months and multiply it by 12. That's what annualizing is. Okay? All right. So if it's a partial year and it's less than 6 months, you probably will not use it for your input. Not for your year-end input. Okay? You'll use your year ends instead, because we don't want to make assumptions. Okay? Hopefully everybody gets that. Okay. So let's say if 2019 was if we only had the first quarter, then we would have asked for 18, 17, 16, 15. Correct. Yes, that's right, Tony. Yeah, we will, the 4 previous year ends. And then we can refer to the current quarter, but unless they're very consistent quarter by quarter, then we could use the quarter. But most of the time, that's not going to be the case. And don't ever use a portion of a month, because if an expense falls in the latter half, it's going to inflate profit falsely. Okay? So, now let's say that we ask for 4 years, the last 4 years, profit and loss and balance sheet plus year to date. Okay. So we're not going to use a year to date. And the client says, well, I have 2019 and 18, but I don't have 17 or 16. Okay, so what we can do is we can get rid of 17 and 16. The reason we do that is because we don't want blank columns in our income statement, and we don't want blank columns on our reports. So all we do is right click and they go away. Okay? Now, let's say that the bookkeeper says, guess what? Good news. I found 2017 in the vault, at the bottom of the vault. You can say, okay, great. And you can right click to bring it back. And then if she digs further and finds 16, you can right click and bring it back. Okay? So that's how that works. So the system assumes that you're going to have multiple years, just because you're not going to have charts and graphs if you only have 1 year. You could still create it. You could still calculate the break even. Well, the system will, and that sort of thing, but you're not going to have charts and graphs. Okay, so all you do to get rid of a year is right click and it goes away. Right click and it comes back. Okay? Now, I'm going to throw my year in the trash. I don't want that data there. I'm going to get rid of all my data. Okay. Okay, now, I'm going to show you some other things. Okay, so when you input a negative number, so when you input a number, you always input the number. But if it's negative, you put the negative sign after. So let's say that there's a loss. Then you would put, oops. You put the minus sign in after. And you can see the minus sign and it's in red. Okay, so when you input a negative number, you put the negative in after the number. Okay, Now, we have a front page and we have a back page to the spreadsheet. So the front page is what you see. The back page is for more of the miscellaneous costs, okay? Because when we do this input, we're not copying line by line of the client's income statement. We're actually consolidating some things and tightening it up so we have a management, something that we can analyze, okay? We don't want to go line by line. As you go through the week, you're going to see why better, especially on Friday, but you just have to take my word for it right now. But we're not transferring line by line. Okay, so we have a front page and a back page. So the back page is for miscellaneous expenses. So just, so the back page looks like this when you pull it up, okay? And we use it for other, so I'll show you what I mean. We use it for other direct costs. You cannot type in a grade box. There's no way to type in that box. So you access that from the back page, and then this is a total box. You want to add a category, and we're going to say other direct. Okay, and I add that category, and now I can type in it. Okay, so it's just adding a category. I can delete it. I can also change it. We have the same thing with indirect costs. So for other indirect costs, it's a grade box. You can't type directly on the box, but you can access the back page, and then you can create these categories and then type in the categories. This is where you put low impact expenses for the most part. Okay, I'll go more into that soon. Okay, now we have line items. Okay, so we have standard line items. Let me get rid of this. We have standard line items. All right, when we do our input, there's going to be some line items that we probably want to add, okay, because there's more line items on our financial than there are in our STS. So to add a line item or a category, what you do is you right click and you're going to add a subcategory. So I'm going to add burden. And that adds a line item to my front page. So this top part, this is our direct costs. We learned what those are. Those are the costs that vary directly with sales. Then we have indirect costs, which are semi-variable, and we have fixed costs, which are fixed. Okay, so the fixed cost does not have a separate back page, so any additional line items for either indirect or fixed costs get added here. So here you'll see I added miscellaneous, professional fees, small tools, shop parts and supplies, insurance, office expense. Okay. So we can add line items. The maximum number of line items that you can add to the front page is 4. Hold on. Just trying to follow along. 2. Just something to note. All your data that you input, this data, the numbers, it automatically saves. So you don't have to save. There is no save function. Okay, so anyway, you can add 4 line items to the front page. Another thing you can do is you can change the name of a category, but you got to be careful because some categories are used in calculations. Owner's salary is used in a calculation for return to owner. So you don't want to rename owner's salary. Depreciation is, that's a standard on a financial. interest expense, so yours says interest expense. I added and bank service charges. I added that because I like to see the whole expense for the bank in one line item. So you can actually rename a subcategory, and I added interest expense and bank service charges. It's maximum 4 subcategories that you can add on the front page. If you add more than 4, your financial is going to spill to a second page and it gets messy. You don't want to do that. Okay, you have to make it easy for reviewing with the client and that sort of thing. So maximum 4 on the front page. Okay. Okay, and then on the back page, the maximum that you can add is 10. We are going to do some consolidating, as I'm going to show you. We're going to consolidate some expenses so that you don't have, 50 line items on the back page. Okay, because that defeats the purpose of what we're doing. We're trying to simplify and do an overview to give the client an idea of what's going on. We're not going line by line. Okay? Okay. Now, another thing that you can do is, actually, you know what? It says don't add more than 3 categories to the front page. I'm sorry, I said 4. 3 is the magic number. 3. Okay, sorry about that. And you really don't want to add a whole bunch of lines to the front page because you're just going to guck up your income statement anyway. So maximum 3 new ones to the front page. So the only one I added was burden. Okay. Now, another thing you can do is you can do a tabular entry that will add multiple numbers together. So, for example, with facilities, when I do facilities, I include a bunch of things into my facilities costs. So I'll show you what you do. You put an equal sign, and then you add your numbers. So 10 plus 11 plus 12, and then you press enter, escape, and it automatically adds those 3 numbers. Okay? And I can check what I input by hovering over it. 10 plus 11 plus 12. So the tabular feature automatically adds up the numbers that you put in the cell. And then, so don't use a calculator to add them up and put the number in. Do it in the cell because then you can see what you did. Okay? All right. Now, another thing, I'm going to show you the annualized feature. So let me show you. Okay, I'm going to show you what happens when I annualize. Don't do this. I'll show it to you. Because if you do it and you don't put it back to the regular thing, you're going to have issues with your input. Or you can do it if you want. But so what I'm going to do is I have to tell the system I have, let's say I have 7 months of data. Okay. So I have financials through July 31st, 2019. So 7 months of data. So because it's 7 months, it's more than 6 months, it's safe to annualize it. And I've said to the client, I'm going to annualize your data. Does the second half of the year look more or less like the first half? And the client will say, yeah, pretty close. Okay, so you know it's good to go. Good to go on the annualizing. Okay, so I input my numbers. Now I'm going to press A, this A button. And what it's going to do is it divides by 7 and multiplies by 12. Okay, it does the math for me. So it automatically does the computation for 7 months of data, for 12. It's annualizing, so it's dividing by the number of months I input, multiplying by 12. So it's saying that over a year's time, your sales will be $171 or so. Annualizing, of course, isn't an absolute, it's an approximation. But it gives us a good idea of what's going on. And we get agreement from the client that yes, annualizing makes sense. Okay? So all I did was I clicked on the A. Now I cannot type in this cell because there's a calculation that was done. So if I need to change something, I have to go back to its original form and then I change it then. So that's how you annualize. All you do is you take whatever partial year you have. Yeah, I'll repeat it. So what you're going to annualize when you have a partial year. You should only input a partial year when you have 6 months or more. You should also tell the client that is it safe to annualize your data, to assume that the second half of the year will be similar to the first or whatever. Okay? I mean, if you have 11 months of data, it's probably going to be pretty close, right? Anyway, you know, we have to do what we have to do. It's not, annualizing is based on a science, but it's not, it's a forecast. But anyway, so I've changed the calendar to reflect 7 months. I have data through July 2019. So it automatically says you have 7 months of data. Now I input my 7 months of data, and now I want to annualize it so my charts make sense. So I'm going to press on the A button, and it divides by 7, multiplies by 12. Okay? The fields are frozen because I annualized. So to change it back, to change it again, I have to go back to it, my original input. Okay? So that's annualized data. Does everybody see that? What I did? Yeah? Okay. If I start to lose you, you gotta let me know. Because the goal is to keep everybody going at the same pace. Yeah, I'll show you again. But are you good on the annualized data? I'm gonna go back to full year. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, let me go back to December 31st. So next year, if next week, if they give you 4 months of 2022, we don't want to annualize, and we stick with correct. That's correct, Mark. So next week, if they give you 4 months of 2022, you want those because we want to see how they're doing, but you want to use your previous 4 year ends. Use December 2021, 20, 19, 18. Yes, correct. Good. But we will look at the 4 months to see where they're at, but we won't input it with our data because it's not enough of a year. There's always exceptions to stuff, but okay. So we're back to 12 months. Now, the way I said you add in a cell is you click on the cell, you put an equal sign, and then you add your numbers, 23 plus 32 plus 10, enter, escape. And that will add them up. And then you can hover over and see the numbers that went in the cell. Okay. You're going to be doing the input. I'm going to be monitoring when you do input. So, okay, I'll do it again. So to do to add numbers in a cell, okay, you would do 10, you put an equal sign, equals, that pulls up your tabular entry, 10 plus 10 plus 10, and then you press enter, escape. You're going to be trying it today. So I'll be here to help you. All right. So those are the tricks of input. I'm going to show you the system for inputting after. Okay, I'm going to just show you the balance sheet as well. The income statement is, let me show you the balance sheet first. Well, I'll show you the income statement. We'll do the income statement. Okay, so with the income statement, I asked you to print the Manheim financials, right? It's similar to Excel, yeah. I asked you to print the Manheim financials. Okay. So when we input into STS, if you follow my system, you will have success. If you disregard my system, you might have problems. I mean, some of you will be able to do it without a system, but if you want to get it right, just follow my system, because my system allows you to do data entry without having to be accounting savvy, okay? And it will, if you can get your data in, then we can help you with your output. If you can't get your data in, there will be no time to help you with your input, really. Not with a bunch of you starting your first job together. It's too busy with phone calls. I can't help you with your data entry. So we want to learn the data entry part this week, okay? And I'm going to teach you a system that makes it simple, okay? Okay. So the way, let me get rid of this data. The way the income statement on STS works is it looks at your sales number. So you put your sales number in first. Then you go down to the reported profit, the green box. You put that number in next. Then you put your other income, other expense. And then it calculates your operating profit. Okay? It takes your sales minus your operating profit, and it says your expenses should be equal to whatever. It matches that to your expenses, and if they match, you won't have any unallocated costs. If it doesn't match, then you're going to have an unallocated cost. So what happens frequently is analysts, the reason there's a check and balance like this is because it verifies the integrity of your input. It's so that you don't forget something and get into your findings and say, oops, and lose credibility with the client. That's why that check and balance is there. So it's a really good check and balance. So it helps to make sure you put in your profit, because a lot of analysts forget to put profit in. And if you forget your profit, then your financials are garbage, okay? So the way our system, the way we do it, the way my system works, this is my system, but I created the system because what I saw when I wasn't doing the training, somebody else was training, and I saw people doing their input, they would input the numbers and they'd forget profit, okay? And so the best way to do this, put your sales in first, your reported profit, which is your bottom line, in next, and then fill in the rest. Okay, then you won't forget profit if you follow that pattern. Okay, now, like I said, we do rework the financials a little bit. So what I mean by that is we're going to group some expenses. We're not transferring line by line, okay? And so what I've done is I sent you a worksheet. This is a, hold on. Okay, well, why are you saying that? It already exists. Okay, hold on. Whatever. Okay, I sent you this category sheet. Okay, so what this is, I want to get rid of this though. Hold on. Hold on a sec. Okay, well, whatever. Okay. Okay. So I want to, I sent you this email, this category reference sheet. Okay. So what this does is each line item on the income statement, I've made a description of what it is and then where it goes on the income statement. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to do some consolidating. So where's my, I lost my, something that I pulled up, but that's right, I'll pull it up again. Okay, so, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark our income statement. So we're pre-marking it, and what we do is we pre-mark because when we do our input, we need to be consistent across our years. So what we're doing is we recategorize some of our expenses so that we consolidate some and so that they're in the right place. And we need to be consistent across the years. It's not so much where we put them, it's the fact that we need to be consistent because, as you'll see on Friday, the system looks at percentages to look at variances. And if you put repairs and maintenance in different places, you're going to create a false variance. So we have to be consistent. So we pre-mark our financials so that we have good data and we're consistent. So the pre-marking is extra work up front, but when you do it up front, it saves you a lot of time at the end. Okay. So in other words, what you're doing is you're going to be pre-marking your financials, and then when you input, you check as you go. You check things off as you go. So anyway, so what I did was I made you a reference page so you don't even have to think. All you have to do is look to see where does it go. Okay, so materials. All I do is I look on my reference page. Materials. It's in my direct costs, cost of goods sold, materials for jobs or product. It goes under direct costs, direct materials. And I just put DM next to that number, okay? And I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna quickly label each one. Wages are direct labor, subcontract is sub, packing materials is other direct. It goes on the back page, so other direct. And I'm going to do this for each line item. Officer salaries are owner's wages. So anyway, and I'm going to just short form each one of those. Okay, does everybody see what I'm referring to? And what my income statement is going to end up looking like is this. Okay, it's going to be all. So for example, city taxes and licenses are other indirect under taxes. So this will go to my back page under taxes. There's a few expenses on the front page that the few expenses on the income statement that could actually go in your cost of goods. But for today's exercise, I want to keep it simple so you can leave them where they are. Okay? Some of you will get this done in no time and others it'll take longer. But if you follow my system, you will have better success. You need to trust me on this. If you just go willy-nilly and do it on your own method, you're gonna run into problems. You are. Okay, so you want to label, pre-mark all of your financials. So we pre-mark the financials all the way down to other income and other expense. Other incomes, this is other income. Interest expense is other expense. Gain on asset is other income. And then my bottom line is income before taxes. like I said, we're focusing on operations, but we do this, we input this. Okay. So anyway, I just use my category reference sheet. I'm going to pre-mark my financial, and then I'm going to input. And when I input, I'm just going, you know, line by line. I can't sit, no, I'm going to have you, I want you to go through the exercise, Ryan. I'm not giving you the answer key already. I want you to go through this because you're going to have to do this at the client. There's not going to be anything pre-marked. So I want you to mark it and go through the exercise yourselves. Okay? This is how you learn. And I used to teach this without this spreadsheet, without this category reference page, and I added this. But this makes it very easy. Maybe later, but I'm not going to do it yet. No, I want you to learn this. You need to learn this. This is how you're going to learn it, okay? Because, well, you're going to be doing physical learning this afternoon. That's going to help you more than anything. So doing it, I will keep up my pre-marked financial, but, oh no, I'll keep up STS. But doing it is the best way to learn it. And this is what we're going to spend this afternoon doing, a good part of this afternoon during the workshop. So that's what I'm explaining, okay? So that's the best way to learn this. That's why, anyway, so you can use your category sheet, and then you're going to pre-mark each line item, and then as you input it, you check it off, okay? It's actually very simple. If you follow this system, you will have success. So the goal is when you input, when you pre-mark, then you input everything, okay? So you put sales first. So for example, sales 1047, 549. And then my next number that I put in is reported profit, which is the bottom line, 38,066 minus. Then I put in my other income. So other income is, there's two numbers, interest income 47 plus 1237. And then I put in my other expense, which is 14,234. The reason I put interest down here is because it's non-operating interest. And operating costs are above the line. This is extraordinary. Okay, so now the system calculates operating profit. Operating profits minus 25,116. Does that match my income from operations? Yes. Okay, so I'm on a good track. Now I can input all my other numbers and check them off as I go. If I do it correctly, I will have 0 unallocated costs. If I make a mistake, I'll have an unallocated cost. So you're going to get to do your input this afternoon, and I'll help you troubleshoot if you have an unallocated cost. But if you use the system that I just told you, you're going to find it much easier than doing it on your own accord. Okay, because people that just start inputting, they forget what they input, they double input, they miss things, and it's just kind of a free-for-all. And if you don't pre-mark it, if you have trouble next week, I can't help you because I won't know where you put things. So that's why if you can just follow the system, you're going to have good success. All right, so let me just go to the balance sheet and show you that. Okay, so the balance sheet, I'm going to throw this in the trash. The balance sheet is easier because we don't change categories or anything like that. We just kind of input as we go. Okay, so with the balance sheet, so the balance sheet is pretty much just, you're just moving numbers into the system, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I'll just give me a second, Clyde. Let me go through the balance sheet and then I'll tell you more. Okay. So with the balance sheet, all I'm doing is I'm putting in my current assets. The categories on this balance sheet should more or less match what's on STS. Okay. So when I input, so cash on hand is 5036 minus 5036 minus accounts receivable is my next number, 26062. I don't have any notes receivable, no other receivables. Inventory 25187. Prepaid expenses 322. Okay, that's all the line items on my current assets. To make sure I'm on track, I can look at my total 46,535 and compare it to my financial 46,535. My current assets are correct. Okay, then I'm going to go into my fixed assets, my long-term assets, and non-depreciable would be land. We don't have any land. So plant and equipment is all furniture and fixtures, leasehold improvements, office equipment, machinery and equipment, and trucks. So that's where I put that. Less accumulated depreciation, it should be a red number, okay? Then other assets, for other assets, I've got organization costs, less accumulated amortization. I'm just gonna put the net number in other assets. So again, other long-term assets, this is a dark gray box. I'm going to click on the box and I created a subcategory called other assets. And I just type in 5215. Okay. So with the balance sheet, I'm pretty well just transferring section by section. Okay. Does the balance sheet make sense? Because that's the easier of the two for sure, for most people. Makes sense? What we're going to be doing is after lunch, like I have to stop for lunch because I have things I have to do in my office. But I'm going to come back in and you're going to do your input and I'm going to help you with questions because you're going to have questions. So the goal, our goal today, you're going to, for homework, part of your homework is going to be to do 1 year income statement, 1 year balance sheet. Okay. But I'm going to give you 2 hours this afternoon to work on it. I'm going to actually give you until 3:30 to do your data. And I'm going to be here monitoring the Q&A. So if you have a question, I can help you. And so I'll be here. So so literally you can be doing your input. You should be doing your input. You should not be taking time away, time off, going like use the time because again, you know, I can't teach this twice and now's the time to troubleshoot. I can help you with input. If you have a problem, I can help you. So it's not the time. Don't do it later. Do it now while we have the chance. I always get somebody that says, I don't know what to do on the second, like the day after we do STS and who did not get help during the workshop. Shame on them. Because when you start to get behind, there's no time to recover. Okay. So I need you to take the time this afternoon to learn to navigate the system. It's really not that hard, especially if you follow my system. It's not that hard and I'll help you. I'm going to help you, Ryan. I'm not going to send it out yet because here's the thing. You need to think through the logic. Okay. You need to trust me on this. Of course, it'd be really easy to copy what I wrote, but that totally defeats the purpose. Okay. So you need to go through the exercise of doing this. You know, it would get the thing done, but it wouldn't teach you anything. and you're supposed to be learning. That's why I'm taking the time to do this. Okay, so that's the balance sheet. So you're really just transferring. The categories are similar, transferring over. If you have a question on the category, you can ask. Now, the goal with the balance sheet is to have no imbalance. If you did your input correctly, then you should have a blank imbalance total. Again, it's another check and balance, which is great in this system. Sometimes you're going to be off by like $1. If you're off by $1, it's probably a rounding error in the data. We're not going to worry about it. Okay? Well, all you have to do is read. If you're marking correctly, I've made it as simple as can be for you. I gave you the answers. If I didn't have this category sheet, it would be different, but I gave you the category that you mark with. So it's really just following instructions, right? In some cases, there's a choice of categories because, for example, so payroll tax. Payroll tax can either be in fixed costs as like labor burden or indirect costs as taxes. So there's multiple places to put payroll tax. So you make a decision and put it where you want it to go. You're going to get used to this as you go. So today will be harder. When you do the remaining 3 years for tomorrow night's homework, it'll be easier. And then by the time you get to Jeffrey's pipe on Thursday, it'll be even easier. Okay, so like I said, the goal is to do 1 year. Part of tonight's homework, along with reading and the quiz, is to do 1 year of Manheim, income statement and balance sheet. And if you do it correctly, you'll have no unallocated costs and no imbalance. So we want to do sales first. Reported profit is our next line item to input. Then other income, other expense, check your operating profit number. And if that matches, you're good to go and fill in expenses. Okay? Does everybody kind of understand what I'm getting at? Yes. Okay. If you follow along, it's really not bad. It really isn't. Once you start inputting, you'll see. So if you end up with an unallocated cost, then there's probably an error. Either you input something wrong, input it twice, forgot to input it, and I can help you troubleshoot it, okay? Because you're going to make mistakes. I will tell you, so when I didn't pre-mark my categories, I did my input and I had unallocated costs. And even though I do this a lot, I couldn't figure out it was more than one number, okay? So then I scrapped it, I redid it, and I said, I'm not going to bother pre-marking it. And guess what? I had a different unallocated cost. So I scrapped it and I said the third time I got to mark it. The time you spend pre-marking your financial, it will help for consistency, but also it will make it easier to troubleshoot. It's going to be really hard to troubleshoot if you don't pre-mark, okay? And then, so here's the plan. You want to input, the goal today is to do 1 year income statement and balance sheet. Now, for those of you who find this easy, ultimately tomorrow night you're going to do the balance of the 3 years. If you can get more than 1 year done, I would take advantage of it because it just means you'll have either get more sleep tomorrow night or have more time for your other homework or whatever, okay? Some of you will find this very easy. Others will find it challenging. So I will come back here at like 1:30 my time, and at 1:30 I'll monitor the chat until 3:30. Okay, we're gonna work on this till 3:30. At 3:30 we're gonna move on to to other things. So spend the time so I can help you. Now's the time to do it. Once you try it, you'll see it's really not bad. It's really not that hard to use. Like I said, you don't have to be accounting savvy to be able to do the input. You just have to follow the system. And following the system just means taking the financial and then taking the category cheat sheet that I gave you, pre-marking, and then inputting just like I told you, sales first, bottom line profit next, other income, other expense, and then input the rest, check as you go. Okay? And I will monitor the chat for questions, and I will come on and I'll answer the question. I encourage questions. No question is stupid. Even if you don't understand it, like whatever, just ask the question. Okay? So we can get this input done so you can be functional on STS this afternoon. And then we'll continue on with the rest later. Okay? So does everybody kind of understand what I'm saying? Are you good to go to get started? Okay. I'll be back here at 1:30. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to put the countdown on. I'm going to leave up this so you can see, you know, there's the sales number, and then I put my reported profit, and then I put other income, other expense, and that matches to my operating profit. I'm going to leave this up so you can see it. Okay? Okay. I'll see you back here. I'll be back in an hour. Now, you can either take a break for lunch and then start. You can get started and take your break later. We will resume class at 3:30, and you need to be back for the class. Okay? And please take advantage of this time and use it to learn the input. Please. Okay? Because honestly, like I said, I've already said this 2 or 3 times. I can't reteach this tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow night I make calls. Thursday night I make calls to you. I can't reteach it. So it's kind of important that we get it, a handle on it now. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my camera and my microphone, and then I'll Okay, I'm here. Okay. So let me see what questions. What do I do with taxes? Okay, well, what does it say? What does it say? Your fields aren't different. Okay, so you could have started it an hour ago, Parth. I just said I was going to be out of the room for an hour. I was going to be in my office because I have to get the homework and everything organized. So with taxes, it's going to be city taxes and licenses are either fixed costs or other indirect costs, taxes. It tells you all of those. Burden is the cost of an employee beyond their wage. So burden, I have used burden for payroll tax. I use burden for workman's comp. You can either put it in burden or insurance. Medical insurance can go in burden or insurance. I created a burden category and I created a tax category. Okay, that's what you mean. I created a subcategory for burden and a subcategory for tax. So if you look on my here, I did one for burden and I could do another one for tax. Oops. So if I want to add a subcategory, taxes, and I just add it to like that. Okay, so you can create it yourself. Okay. Yeah, so you would, I added the burden and I added the taxes. Okay, yeah, it's simple. But that's why we're doing this. You're going to have simple questions, which is fine because I just went through it quickly. So no worries. Most of the questions are simple. I take Duolingo Spanish every day, and Duolingo says it's good to make mistakes. That's how you learn. So that's the same thing with this. Okay, well then, David, you added it differently. You, that's funny, Sam. Gracias. Muchos errores. Okay, so you can either add things to the back page or to add it to the front page, you right click on a line item and add it that way. Okay, so there's two ways to add subcategories. One is to the front page. You can add a maximum of 3. 2 is to the back page. You can add a maximum of 10. Okay, so that's the difference, David. Yeah. What do we put in? Hold on. Okay, so the reported profit is the bottom line. The reported profit, yeah, that is wrong, Clyde. Your reported profit is negative 38,066. So you forgot to put in a loss. So the return to owner is actually the owner's salary plus the reported profit. So let me put in the correct number, 38,957. So it's actually 13,841 because it adds owner salary plus operating profit to get return to owner. but we're not using return to owner as a checkpoint. It is a calculation, and it needs to be right because return to owner is one of the ways that we compare apples to apples in terms of profitability. So the reported profit is the bottom line, and then you put in your other income, other expense. Okay? Make sense? Other questions? How's everybody doing? Are you making any progress or? So far, so good? Okay, good. It's pretty easy if you follow the system, to be honest. Okay, so sometimes there's choices. The spreadsheet has shop expenses, either direct or indirect. Okay, so what I said earlier, which I'm not saying that you weren't listening. I'm just saying today, I don't care. You can keep shop expense where it is in indirect. Technically, it could actually go into other direct. It could go as an other direct cost. But if you move it up to your cost of goods, your gross profit number is not going to match. So for simplicity's sake, you can just leave it where it is in indirect costs. No, once your income statement is complete and you have no unallocated costs, you can move on to the balance sheet. And then once you finish 1 year of the balance sheet, then I would encourage you to go on to the other years of the income statement and balance sheet. Because the more you get done today, the less work you have tomorrow night. Do I have a way to see? I don't have a way to see per se. I can't. So if this was a client that was unique to you, I'd be able to sync. You could sync your financials and I could see, but that's not the case with this. If you have a question, you can always send me what you've done. And I can tell you how to do that if need be. You would send me your income statement and your other direct costs and indirect costs. You would send both of those to me. So and certainly once you're finished with your income statement or your balance sheet, if you have, if you want to know that you're on the right track, then you could send it to me and I can look at it. But you'll have to do it by email. So. You don't lose your data. No, you don't, your data doesn't go away. It'll be there. Okay, so secured debt would be like collateralized debt with bank debt. Unsecured would be like a loan from a related party, something like that. Because most banks are going to require collateralized debt. So unsecured would be that. Um, FAC is facilities. So in the abbreviations, uh, no, it's the same. Sorry to confuse you. That's a good question. It's all facilities. Let me change this to FAC. I'll change it here. It won't be changed for yours, but you can mark it as FAC. Yeah, sorry. I did this really quick one day, and that's the result. No, in the adjustments to profit, it knows whether it's an expense or income, so you don't want to put a negative sign. Yeah, Subi, it could be either. So today you can just leave it in indirect for simplicity, because today I'm more concerned about everybody learning how to use the system, and then we'll get more particular about where to put things after, you know. The thing about keeping it as indirect is that then your direct cost totals will match the financial if you input them that way. So that's all. No, interest expense is bank interest. I'm not sure what you're asking, Parth. Interest expense would be, but there is no interest expense in the operating expenses. There's only bank service charges. Payroll tax expense, you can either put it in taxes or burden. So if you created a category called burden, then you can put it there. Sometimes I gave you choices. I'll tell you why. If the client is very concerned about tax, I would load it into tax, because then their tax liability would be like, ouch, okay? It's merchandising. If they're not so concerned about tax, then I might put it in burden. You know, that's all. If the client doesn't understand that, a lot of clients think their labor cost is their payroll, but their labor cost is their payroll plus health insurance, workman's comp, payroll tax, their share of the payroll tax, all those things. And so that's why you would actually put it as a line item. So it's kind of how you want to utilize it with the client. That's why there's a choice. Just to make things complicated, just to make it confusing. But that's why. Tina, something, you must have made a mistake, because the balance sheet is balanced for 2019. It's out by $1 for 17 and 16, but not for 19. So you must have a slight error. But you know what? It's not worth it. Don't worry about $10. So, but it will be out. It'll be out by 10. The way to tell where you're out is, I'll show you. if you go section by section and compare it to your balance sheet, then you can easily figure out where you're out. And all you have to look is at this second to last number to figure out where you're out. You're out because you will be out. But anyway, you can just compare your total liabilities, your total assets, your equity to figure out, okay, well, where in what section am I out if you want to find it. Technically, when you do financials, the reason you would look for small amounts of money is just because it could be two bigger amounts. But for $10, it's more important to get a good night's sleep than it is to find $10, to be honest. So that's why, it is what it is. But if you want to find it, there are pretty quick ways to find it. Or if you make a note, well, which section is out? Which section is out? On your balance sheet? Your current assets? So there's got to be something missing, something wrong. You can send it to me if you want, or just there. I mean, it's only those four numbers, so it's not a lot to check, but your current assets should definitely match. Yeah. Oh, you got it? Ignacio, well, so you went into documents and reports, you said the optimization prints well. And you went to review, and you went to income statement, and then you did Control P and it didn't print. And you restart it and it does the same. But other reports, it doesn't do that. So the only thing I can suggest you do, can you send an email to because I don't know what to tell you about that. Okay, send an email to him. He's the programmer, and explain just that, and he will help you. Because I can't imagine what it would be. Okay? So do that, because you want to be able to print that. I don't know. Well, for facilities cost, I use rent. So what do I do? If we look at this, I use trash removal, rent, utilities, security, and so security, telephone, trash removal, rent, and utilities. Yeah, that's what I figured, Tina. We're back. We're at 3:30. We're going to resume. Zero unallocated cost means that you input all the numbers. It doesn't mean you categorize things right, but it's a good sign. So then move on to your balance sheet. Correct. The balance sheet you don't have to mark up. So yeah, you pre-mark the income statement, then you input it. Oh, ugh. You're doing fine, Rocco. Okay. The programmer cannot help you, carry on. You're the programmer is for programming issues. It's not for where's the link? I sent you the link last night. Wait, I know you had it all along.